Welcome to Eminence TV Live, our weekly rundown of tournament cEDH and what's going on in the cEDH community. I'm Scoots, as always. I'm joined by my wonderful, very handsome, lovable co-host, the Jamaican Dude. We like to thank our sponsors, Moxfield and the Epic Storm, without whom this would not be nearly as amazing. If you're enjoying Eminence content and would like to see more, please consider subscribing here on Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to one channel a month for free. We would love if you would consider using that on us. And in fact, you should. EDH.events is in beta, but aims to catalog all cEDH and EDH events tied to Command Tower. Eminence profiles are competitive player profiles that list your wins and loss ratios based on any event you have participated in that was ran through the Command Tower software. I had the pleasure of using a secret backdoor hidden view of this software this past weekend, and it was amazing to be able to look at someone's profile and pull up the exact deck that they were playing and their Eminence statistics. It was awesome. I hope that eventually all tournament organizers and judges are using this, because it has made the process of feature matches, of judging, of deck checks negligible, like easy, very easy. Another important thing to say is that Eminence.mtg is closing our Patreon. That's right. We're closing our Patreon, but look forward to the new Eminence Marketplace coming soon. Big changes, and you can subscribe there in the near future. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh yes, Command Tower is now live for shops and TOs globally to use. Memberships go from $5 and up. Shop partnerships are live. The shop partners sponsor a player or players in the main Eminence shop. Events, rather. Shops purchase their entry and hold a cEDH event at their shop, with the winner getting the sponsored ride to a tournament. The next one is Punt City 2, so maybe it's that. We reserve 30 tickets for shop partners, and this is an effort to bridge the gap between large-scale event systems and LGS-level scenes, supporting the community and its player bases everywhere. We had Silicon Dynasty at the beginning of the month, well, in the middle of the month, and it was a 5K event sponsored by, Moxfield and the Epic Storm. We have the winner of Silicon Dynasty with us tonight. His name is Ben. Say hello, Ben, if you'd like to.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about the event and the deck today.
Awesome. I'm glad. Chaotic Sparks is gifting some tier 1 subs. Joe O subscribed at tier 1. Thank you all for the subs and the gift subs. Appreciate you very much. MTG the Epic Storm saying, wow, this genre person is against innovation in the Simic space. Please do not discuss Kinnan, says Shauna. Ben, please do not discuss Kinnan. All right.
We're not here for Kinnan. We're here for the new Esper King.
Yes.
That's
what we're here for.
Warning given. Before we get into the new Esper King, I do need to tell you the following dates and info, and one other interesting factoid. First, the factoid. If you make an event on using Command Tower, you can get it on the EDH.events homepage, which is awesome. It's a listing, it's a catalog, it's up now, and you should go take a peek. Finally, importantly, we are here with the dates for the following upcoming Eminence events. Punt City 2, March 24th through 26th in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, located right outside sunny Philadelphia. I will be there. Please bring chicken for me. Thank you. The Cookout, July 28th through the 30th in Hotlanta. I don't know if I can call it that, but I'm 34, so I think I can get away with it. And then finally, Windmill Slam, our beautiful return to the west coast of the United States, September 23rd to the 25th, back in San Jose. I'm going to do my darndest to get there and see you beautiful faces. Chaotic Sparks continuing to give.
Just for Scott's own protection, please don't bring us a live chicken.
Not a live chicken, but
just a chicken, preferably fried, and
Yeah, I'm
killed,
talking
and
like a bucket.
yeah. But I'm just gonna make sure they don't bring us a live chicken. You
I
know,
don't want a
people.
live chicken. I would like a.
Okay,
I listen. I did not get this size. Not eating fried chicken. So if you bring me a bucket of fried chicken, I will hug you. I will shout you out on the stream. It'll happen. All right. Now that the insanity is over and the fried chicken has been proposed, we are here with Ben, the goat. Natural Crunch in the chat says that he saved my family and my house from a house fire. So inspirational. Many people have had their lives touched by Ben and his many brave and wondrous acts, but before that, Ben was a Magic player, and he decided to become a Magic player again for a weekend 2 weeks ago in San Jose, California. Chat loves Ben. Another Ben
Wow.
story. He lent me his airplane to visit his grandpa last week from Chaotic Sparks.
absolutely,
You're
absolutely.
welcome. I got you.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a little flustered by all these stories that I definitely for sure did.
Yeah, apparently you saved the Venus Safe's fire house from a house fire. You're a real French American hero.
There we get a little bit of truth. I am French.
Joe O says between rounds, Ben saved my dog who got stuck in a tree. And DMOC thanks you for the use of your Lambo last weekend. And with those out of the way, Ben, you won Silicon Dynasty. A few questions for you before we get into a new thing that we're gonna try, which is the Eminence Events Deck Tech sponsored, I guess. I mean, we're using Moxfield, our wonderful sponsor. I don't know if I can say sponsored by Moxfield, but they are our sponsor. So take with it what you will. Then a few questions for you before we start. You brought Malcolm Tymna, which you call Mulling for Malcolm, Adaptive Malcolm Tymna. What makes your version of Malcolm Tymna different than the bog standard that we might see from like the other Esper farm lists on the database?
I think I try to be very adaptive and play cards that can help me in any scenario. And so I'm playing some of the things you might see, like Cyclonic Rift, to be able to help against stacks games. But you also see stuff like the 1 mana Pirates, which give you a mana advantage in long games that can really help. And
Yes.
it's something you don't see in some of the other lists. I try not to go too heavy on the creatures because at the end of the day, I want to be able to win quickly off an Adnaz if that scenario like arises. And so it's really about being able to adapt to the game and see if it's a fast game, it's a slow game, and try to craft your game plan based on that.
Excellent. Excellent. So, when you took the deck to Silicon Dynasty, you took it, it seems, because it's the deck that you're most comfortable with, the deck that you play. Do you feel, compared to decks like Tymna Crom or other Malcolm decks like Teamer Malcolm, Grixis Malcolm, do you feel that Tymna Malcolm, which via evidence we can tell that it does hang in the top echelons of cEDH, but do you feel that it is a deck that people looking to become a tournament contender should pick up and start mastering?
I think the deck is not necessarily the very strongest deck in the cEDH, but it's in the top 10, and it's extremely powerful. People underrate how much having a mana advantage in the command zone helps. You start to see that with Rog and like Rog Silas.
Mhm.
And so during these long games, you can contend with these other decks like Tymna Crom that have 2 card advantage engines because you're splitting between card advantage and mana advantage, and I actually prefer the mana advantage side.
Uh, play Grixis Malcolm, and I love the mana advantage in the command zone, and it's extremely powerful. But it will be the day that I die when I stop saying you are just killing a Birds of Paradise when you hurt my Malcolm.
I get away with my Malcolm living a lot more because people aren't afraid of a combo
Yeah.
that will kill them instantly.
No Glinthorn Buccaneer, but insurmountable mana advantage is kind of a good thing.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
We don't
The
talk about
opponents don't
that.
know.
No,
They don't
no,
know.
no. Birds of Paradise that turns other things into Birds of Paradise is not a good thing. Ben, you are known, and the name of the deck is Mulling for Malcolm. You are known to mull. Some people would say absurdly low. I would say the correct amount. What is the lowest mull that you took during Silicon Dynasty?
Um, I won a game off a mult of 4, I believe.
All right.
Yeah. I kept a hand that was, what was it? What was it? It was pretty gross. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I'm sure I can find it. It had turn 1 Malcolm plus something else. Oh, no, it was turn 1 Esper Sentinel, turn 2 Rhystic Study.
That's pretty
That's a
good.
good 4.
That's pretty
A good
good.
4.
That was a 4, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good 4.
I think I
Yeah.
have seen you win on a 3, and one of the 3 was Lion's Eye Diamond, which you promptly cast and cracked to cast Malcolm.
Listen,
Yeah,
we,
I've done that a non-zero amount of times.
Yeah. Zentic in the MTG in the chat says that will do it. Yeah, no, that's
it is
that's pretty
called
good.
Mulling to Malcolm for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, as it turns out, it's pretty good. Ben, as I take a look at your deck list, which we are going to move into, I gotta know about one specific card. And it's in the sideboard. And I just want to give you a chance to explain it here.
Oh, for
Tetsamok,
sure.
Primal Death in the
I
sideboard.
mean, Tetsamok is really powerful, and like if you look at my primer, I explain it in a good amount of detail.
Mhm.
I think the Tetsamok it really speaks for itself.
Really
like
speaks for itself.
it's just
Okay.
such a powerhouse.
I'm going to post a link to the deck in the chat. Ben invented the heart of the cards in the chat. Tetsamok is the best amok. Okay, all right. Shauna Gillis in the chat says, I cannot possibly roll my eyes more.
Underappreciated Tetsamok.
Shauna has not
So
experienced
powerful.
the power of Tetsamok or 4C Falco Spara.
Here, let me ask Shauna one question. Has
Yeah,
Shauna
please.
ever won a game in cEDH against a Tetsamok Primal Death? Just putting that out there.
Oh, that is... Gosh, I don't think there's any clapback for that.
Yeah.
Well, with that incredible diss track out of the way. The chat saying my money is on no. Cope. Excellent. Copium in the chat.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
there we go.
Beautiful,
Facts.
beautiful, beautiful. All right. Now I want to shift to a new thing for this channel, but we're going to try and do it more often. We're constantly innovating for you, dear viewer. Let's talk about the deck list, which I think will any second now be up on my screen. We're there. Perfect. Thank you for the gifted sub, Chaotic Sparks. You're so cool. Like this Chaotic Spark. Nice.
Manfred going off.
That is appreciate it. All right, so here we are on the deck list. Wow, that is just getting wild. Chaotic Sparks, thank you for more gift subs. Really appreciate you. I think you've given us so many, I have to pause alerts for a minute because they just keep covering everything on my screen. So
he's trying to not leak the tech.
Yeah, and I could understand that. So I look at this deck and I do see 4 a kind of Esper list, I do see a fairly light creature package, but you do have a 2/2 evasive like flyer mana generator in the command zone. So I'm assuming your Tymna draws are pretty excellent.
They are very live all the time. We have amazing Tymna draws. They're just always like we have. I mean, we always have Malcolm as just to get in there, and you're always making a treasure, always drawing a card, and I try to keep the card quality as high as possible in the whole deck.
Yeah. And you can see from top to bottom it is literally a list of staples and powerful cards that are very suited to many situations. You have some tech pieces in the deck that I myself like of Siren Storm Tamer and Spectral Sailor, little 1 mana evasive pirates that do good Timna thing. Do you find yourself ever wanting to? I see in the sideboard you have Changeling Outcast, which is a card that I like in Tymna Malcolm. Do you ever find that you want to add that into the deck? How often is it in and out, I guess, is the question.
I was actually playing Changing Outcast instead of Spectro Sailor, but I think Spectro Sailor is better for a number of reasons. It being blue, able to block, pitches to force, and the ability it actually has to draw
Worst
cards.
case, can draw a card. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something you activate much, but I actually did recently win a game off drawing cards off of it. It has
That,
flash, so you get to hold up blue mana. Yeah.
that game doesn't count. You got like a billion treasures.
Yes, I cast
Sure.
a puzzle image copying a dockside and made 39 treasures, and it drew me a lot of cards. But it was one game. I drew more cards off that than I'd ever drawn ever off it.
Ashani, chat is very excited to hear your thoughts regarding Esper Malcolm.
Is it Chandler or just one person? But okay.
It's just one person, but they are
Sure,
in
sure,
the
sure,
chat. Ergo.
I mean, here, that is correct. That is correct. Could we agree, Ben, that Esper is the hard mode of Grixis?
Yeah, you're missing the two best red cards, and Dockside and Breach.
And Breach, yeah.
You have Red at Home, which looks like Yogwill and Fimage copying Dockside, and those are a
True.
lot worse. Like, I'm not gonna pretend they're, but it's your Red at Home.
So a few people, since you have won Silicon Dynasty, I've seen a few people pick up this deck and completely fold with it because they don't know the lines are how to get there. But the main line is normally Doomsday. But this,
I wouldn't even say I rarely tutor Doomsday. I'm usually
okay.
just assembling things manually. Yogwill is something I go for often, or Adnaz. Or I'm usually assembling just Oracle manually. I don't focus on Doomsday. It's just we need a threat density in Esper,
Okay.
and that's just another tutor to find win cons.
Oh, that's awesome. But I always thought about this deck where I feel like it draws a lot of cards. It dirtles a bit. Maybe when I dabbled in it a few times.
Oh.
But I feel like the whole idea, I think, and also why a lot of people enjoy it, is the puzzle of how to get to the win. I don't think the line is always the same. Like, sure, you have Oracle Consult, but that's normally not always the go-to win strategy of it.
Ashani, looking at the upcoming Eminence Marketplace, I do think that we have a shirt that handles your issues with the deck.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
I totally agree.
It's got red letters on it.
Skill issue?
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely could be a skill issue here. And, great work. We should definitely pick up a few. But don't think it's a skill issue here, sir. I'm gonna be honest here. But no, I think Sick is a cool deck. I've seen since the last time have you always played all the talismans on the color, or have you recently on the talisman color?
I just put in the non-blue talisman, the of hierarchy.
Yeah.
After putting in City of Traders to try to just put in another 2-mana rock.
Nice.
I'm not totally set my mind on it, but it's in there for now.
To just appease our sponsors who are in the chat right now, I noticed that this trend of adding all of the talismans and City of Traders and Ancient Tomb to decks, which is something that I feel kind of started with the Rogsai innovations, is happening a lot, like top down, even in decks without like ad nauseum and underworld breach and that kind of thing. I've seen it in like blue red decks at this point. Uh,
Right.
do not
Yeah.
credit the Rog Cabal, says MTG the Epic Storm. Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
I take all the credit. It's all mine.
It's
There you go.
Ben. Yeah, you can look him up. I don't think he's on Twitter, but or are you on Twitter?
I am on Twitter.
Okay.
I think it's just Ben Z Loeb. I think so.
Okay, excellent. Please direct all your hate comments to our wonderful guest.
Yeah, I'll take all of it.
So a thing that you notably do not play that is 2 mana, that can be cast with City of Traders and Ancient Tomb is Defense Grid, and I think it's because you have enough silence effects in white, including the original silence. Was there any consideration for Defense Grid, and do you feel that at any point during your Silicon Dynasty games that it would have been beneficial to you?
I think Defense Grid is really interesting. I haven't gotten enough testing on it that I wanted to play it.
Yeah.
But it is something that's appealing. It's not as good as the white silence effects because those are creatures, and creatures are almost uncounterable
Yeah.
in this format. So but silence effects are such a big part of how this deck wins. You're usually resolving some kind of silence or grand abolisher effect, and then going for a win.
Excellent. Another thing that I have noticed is you have a fairly dense list of instants and tech pieces in those lists. March of Swirling Mist is a card that is underperformed for me personally, but have you felt that it is adequate removal for you?
I I don't get enough games in, but so far that has been okay for me. It's not like super exciting, but being able to thread in multiple stacks pieces at once for a very cheap price is very powerful.
Yeah.
It was able to win me a game by removing 2 Hullbreaker horrors at once. One was a
pretty good.
Fimage, but it was able to win me one game like that, so it performed well there. But to be honest, I didn't think I would win that game.
Pretty good rate.
I think that's the only time I drew it at Silicon.
Notice that your list does have Dress Down in it, which is a card that I see more and more in these like less than 4 color, and even now Blue Farm kind of stormy lists. Do you think that creature density in the meta is high enough that Dress Down is a must run, or do you think it's an adaptive piece?
I think Dress Down being able to cleanly answer Dockside, it like just makes such a big difference that it's almost playable just because of that.
Yeah.
It also answers a number of other things like Oracle Winds and stacks pieces and all this. It is a little awkward because our deck is extremely bad at winning through Dress Down.
Yeah.
It usually involves Chain of Vaporing both the Dress Down and then copying it to bounce whatever you're actually trying to Dress Down.
Yeah.
But it is something that I have done, and it's very awkward.
Dress Down is I'm finding the same issues with playing like Welcome Vile Smasher in that I would say the majority of the time I am mulling to win with Glinthorn Buccaneer because as you and I and Ashani all know, creatures are currently uncounterable in cEDH.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm really hung up on Dress Down. I don't know if it's for me. Ashani, do you have any feelings on Dress Down?
I think Dress Down is as good as a so-called board wipe for creatures as you can get.
Yeah.
You can normally flash it in on the opponent's end step going into your turn. So you have it going into yours, which is very mana efficient.
Yeah.
And especially Black Kid, Dockside, Grand Abolisher, Ranger, Captain. It's a pretty good card. I've been an enjoyer of Dressed Out for a while.
Okay.
Here, I've been having this discussion recently. Maybe you guys can chip in about it.
I'd love
How do
to.
you feel about the lack of removal in decks recently? And I was just taking a look see at yours here, Ben. You got 5 removal. And do you feel like with the rise of creature commander centric, just like your list where I won't say you need your Malcolm, but you would like your Malcolm and you love your
Yeah.
Tymna. So
People are usually apprehensive to kill Malcolm because there's no threat of a combo. So are you really going down a card just to deny me some mana? And and it's 1 mana a turn, right? So people are unlikely to do it. It does happen. It actually happened in both the semifinals and the finals. But I think that was the only 2 times it happened that day, for example. So it's like I do prefer to have Malcolm, but it very rarely gets removed.
so the question I have for you, when your Malcolm got removed in those games, how did it make your game play out? Was it a lot slower? Did it hinder you? Did you have to
Yeah, both of those games I didn't have the fastest hands, and then one of those games all of my lands were destroyed right afterwards.
Ooh.
So it was pretty rough.
Yeah, that sounds pretty terrible.
I mean, I think after Malcolm was removed from Alana, because I could feel that it was a slower game, my next turn was immediately to recast Malcolm for 5 mana.
Yeah.
So, if you could tell that that's the kind of game it can be, you can get away with it.
That's fair. That's fair. But so, do you agree with it? Like we can see that recently, Godo, um, took down Mox Masters, or just a lot of creature decks. Been looking at a lot of players, seen a lot of tournaments, and there's cards that just stack pieces resolve and they just stick for the whole game. And
Yeah,
either people are okay playing under the stacks, or they just don't have ways to remove the stack
They just don't have
pieces.
anything to do about it.
Yeah.
I will say this deck plays very well under stacks,
Mhm.
but it is true that we have very little removal. So for the most part, they are resolving, and we're just gonna play through them. Within this color combo, we have a decent opportunity to do that. I am lower on a lot of removal because all the bounce spells that you normally use with Dockside, well, I got no Dockside.
You got no Dockside, yeah.
They're just not great. So I only have a few, I guess. Cycrypt, Swords, Chain of Vapor, Dress Down.
Yeah.
What's the last one?
March?
March. Yeah, there we go. So it's not a ton, but if we have to spend a tutor on removal, then I can live with that.
Any concession? Any concession for Deadly Relic? Any thoughts about Deadly Relic?
I had Deadly Relic going into the tournament, but then at the last second, right before the tournament, I ended up switching it for Blue Blast because I expected a lot of red at the top tables. In the end, the only time I drew the Blue Blast was to kill a red creature, which Deadly Relic would have also have done.
Yeah.
And I had the 1 mana, so it really didn't make a difference at all, which is a little bit underwhelming of an answer. I think both cards are very good, and it's kind of a meta decision.
Appreciate the answer though. I mean, it's a. Sometimes the answer is maybe. Like sometimes that is it. That is the correct one. See.
What hands are we looking for here, man? If we wish not to raise the primer and get it from the master himself, are we just literally looking for turn 1 Malcolm most of the time? Or is it always, normally pod dependent and so on and so forth?
You can look at the pod, but the pod will mostly dictate what cards we're putting on the bottom and not what cards we're choosing to keep in a hand. There is room for change if the pod is very surprising. That said, what we're looking for is either a turn 1 Malcolm and so that we can play turn 2 Tymna. We get to make our Malcolm attack, hold up 1 mana, while having our entire mid-range play in play. So, like, that's how you set your... That sequence happens very often.
Okay.
But you don't have to keep turn 1 Malcolm. If you have something that's equally or more powerful, keep it. For example, turn 1 Esper Sentinel, turn 2 Ristic. That's great. Keep it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good keep.
That's very
I've
magical.
heard
That
that's
happens.
I've
That
heard
happens rarely.
that's
Yeah.
a pretty good keep though.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like it doesn't have to be turn 1 Malcolm. It's not a hard fast rule.
Right.
So your first, so do you go by the rule of like your first and second 7 needs to be like absolutely busted for you to even consider keeping it?
It, for the most part, yes. If it has turn 1 Malcolm, I might just be like, okay, it's good enough.
It's good enough.
Fine,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, if I have turn 1 Malcolm and the entire hand is the rest of the hand is lands, that's not worth it. Even if it's
No.
like Mana Crypt Malcolm, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll have turn 2 Tymna, but someone's gonna try to win and I won't be able to interact with them.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you need a little bit more than turn 1 Malcolm if you're on first 7, but it's hard to tell exactly how much.
So the deep mulligans, the we'll call them the championship mulligans. Like if you are mulling to 3 or 4 in the deck, what are you prioritizing as your 3 or 4 cards?
Once I'm on 3 or 4, we're really looking for turn 1 Malcolm, turn 2 Tymna, because after 2 turn cycles, we're back with a full hand. We have as much mana as everyone else. We're doing fine. So you have a lot of freedom to mill really, really low. And I will mention, I wrote some stuff about this in the past, and Sperling wrote an amazing article on Eminence's website.
Yeah, thank you for the
cEDH.
plug.
Yeah, cEDH is a format that heavily encourages mulligans. And
Yeah.
I'll just talk about this really briefly, but in even 60 card formats, pros have said that people don't mulligan enough, just in general.
Yeah.
So you should be mulliganing more just in general. But if you look at a 100 card format, with the high variance of card quality in this deck, like there are cards like, what is a bad card? What the worst card in my deck? I don't know. Offer You Can't Freeze is not just the best card in my deck, but Mana Crypt and Remora and Ristic, these are some of that those better cards in this deck. So when you have the card variance as high as this format, you want to be mulliganing more. And I'll give you one more bonus reason, is that when you're playing against 3 other players, that you need a higher quality hands to be able to contend with the other best hands at the table. Keeping a 50% hands, okay, it's the average hands in your deck. That's not good enough, because 3 other players, chances are someone has a better hand than you. It's not as simple as whoever has the best hand wins, but it's definitely a good thing to have a better hand.
Well, okay. Yeah. That is good guidance. Have a better hand. That is good.
In other words, mulligan more.
How do you
Good
feel
one. Yo.
mulligan more? Ben, how do you feel about current counter magic suites that people are running right now? Because I see that you are in fact on some heaters. You've got the Blue Blast, you've got the Miscast, you've got the Offer You Can't Refuse, and these are spells that are 1 mana and kill things and deal with things very well. But I see less and less of, especially Offer and Miscast. I see these leaving the decks. How are you feeling about those spells right now, and how are you feeling about some of the other offerings, like for instance, the Propaganda Spell Snare?
I used to be on Spell and Snare. It's very good at stopping other people, but not very good at defending yourself. It's a reasonable card, but I like to be a little bit more proactive when I
Yeah.
can. As a lot of these counter spells are a little bit unique to this deck. I mean, they're played a little bit all over, but they're coming a little bit out of favor. The reason why we're on all of these 1 mana counter spells is exactly that sequence I mentioned of turn on Malcolm, turn to Tymna, you
Yeah.
have a treasure now. You can interact with other people. So we're really trying to maximize on 1-mana counterspells and free counterspells, obviously,
Yeah.
to be able to interact with people on that second turn cycle, because that's where most of the faster decks try to win.
Yep.
And another thing that I wanted to highlight is I never thought I'd say this, but at 27 lands, your land count is higher than a lot of tournament decks. How are you feeling about your current land count? Do you think you need to go up or down?
Um, I've been thinking about maybe cutting one more land, going to 26.
Good man.
There
Good
was
man.
also I was considering adding Cavern. It's a trend you've seen with some of the blue farm decks to be able
Yeah.
to play Grand Abolisher. They can name Pirate as well and play their Dockside. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But Cavern to name Human and get all of the Grand Abolisher effects,
Yeah.
the silence
Yeah.
effects into play is a very powerful line. And with the reduced color, we're only in Esper, no, not 4-color, and with the treasures that Malcolm provides, it's pretty reasonable to put in a few colorless lands. You don't want to go too deep, but a little bit.
A land that I've been Plaza of Heroes, which is like a weird land that produces mana of any color in your commander's color identity to cast a legendary creature, and then produces mana of any color of a legendary creature you have in play, and then you can pay 3 and sack it to give your legendary creature Shroud. Uh, I wonder.
Hexproof and indestructible. Interesting. This is
Yeah,
pretty powerful. It's not something I've considered at all, and maybe I could see it. I'd have to do some testing.
yeah, it's got
Hopefully,
weird
against.
corner case to it, but I wonder. Sorry, Ashani, go ahead.
No, I said definitely like it in the Malcolm Buccaneer decks where you
Yeah,
can get the decks.
Yeah.
another card that I've really enjoyed is combat research. Have you given any credence to cards that protect Malcolm more and more, or do you think that your political skills have sufficed? Like, I know you're very good at talking. I'll just put that out there. You're good at convincing people that you have the right line of play for them. Do you find that your political skills are enough to defend your Malcolm, or you've added Siren Storm Tamer and things like that? Do you find that you need those effects regularly, or do they just trigger the Malcolm?
I think they're mostly to trigger the Malcolm. The extra effect is nice. I'm happy that it's there.
Yeah,
I think my political uh I don't know, charisma, I don't know, talking at the table is mostly sufficient to protect Malcolm. The truth is that when I'm talking at the table, I'm not trying to convince my opponents to make bad plays.
no,
I'm telling them the right play when it benefits me.
yeah,
Yeah.
And like, because I am very used to playing against really good players, and if people are predictable, that's how you can start playing around things and have things go according to plan. And what's more predictable than the best play? I mean, this is definitely a skill that I've kind of picked up from shout out to my favorite game, Hanabi.
wow, what a game!
Yeah, what a game!
Love that game.
Amazing game. Highly recommend it.
Talking about it before the stream here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should play Hanabi if you want to become a better cEDH player. You should play Hanabi, or play cEDH if you want to become a better Hanabi player. They're interchangeable. Hanabi Gamer,
Okay.
Poppyphobia in the
There we go.
chat. Shauna Gillis in the chat says, "Wow, Ben made it 54 minutes without mentioning Hanabi. This is an outstanding new record. Excellent." Ben, thanks so much for talking to us about your deck. Are there any other important points about your deck that you feel like people should know before we transition into a Q&A section here?
um, I'll give a quick shout out to perhaps my favorite card in the deck, Mnemonic Betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
This is some tech that Damon and I figured out a long time ago when we were on Curious Control, when that deck was still played. Really sorry, Greg. Um,
Oh, shots fired.
and I think this Mnemonic Betrayal is an insane card.
Yeah.
I think that if you're playing blue and black and you're not playing Mnemonic Betrayal, then you're making a mistake. This card, like late
Really
game,
that
you
much?
top deck a tuner, you need to win the game. Mnemonic Betrayal instantly wins the game. It gets around Grafdigger's Cage. It's just too powerful. Using everyone's graveyards for everyone's fast mana and everyone's tutors, being able to ignore colors, so you just crack a Lotus Petal for Soul Ring for Dockside. It's very easy to win like that.
Real, all right. And Chaotic Sparks says, Ben, show them the tournament record. And that's right, point to the scoreboard. Our board. Show the Eminence profile. Well, we probably could eventually, but
Sure, I've at Puncy I made top 16 and Silicon
Yeah.
Dynasty I won, obviously.
Yeah.
So I was able to leave with a 66% win percentage,
Love that.
which is insane in this format. So
Good.
my goal is to keep that title for as long as I can, but while playing games, because obviously I could keep it if I don't play games, but that's boring.
Forky in the chat. All right. Ben, a quick transition to Q&A here from the chat. We do have a couple questions. And chat, if you would like to start asking questions to the Ben, we will now
demand the guacamole question.
Yeah, here it comes. Ben, the chat really wants to know, and this is honestly what we're getting pestered about the most in the chat right now. How do you feel about the rising price of guacamole at Chipotle?
I'm a huge fan of guacamole. I do like Chipotle. I love all kinds of food, but Mexican food is amazing, and it hurts to see guacamole increase in price.
Absolutely.
It interrupts the ability to buy foils for my deck, and that really hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. Rip to your ability to buy foils, and I hope that someday soon the guacamole capers will stop happening and we can get some real guacamole going on. We actually had a very good question in the chat from Fibblethip2727 who says, should you build to answer the top 16 meta or to answer the Swiss meta?
I think that's a tough question. I think you're mainly gonna. I think you want to be built for the Swiss because your goal is to make it to top 16.
Yeah.
There's so much variance in the game that you can't really reliably say, oh, I'm going to build for top 16, and then that'll change things and make me win top 16.
Yeah.
I think ultimately you just want the most cohesive deck. If you want, build a little bit towards the Swiss meta, but don't make any concessions that are too big. Because at the end of the day, you just want the best deck possible.
Yeah,
excellent.
Excellent.
That is true, but I do agree. There's like a different meta. Like at the top of the hill, you do have more aggressive spell base, and then in the middle of the pack, there is a lot of creature stack based deck that people are definitely playing in most tournaments. When you definitely watch the webcam tournaments going on. So
yeah,
I think that was a definitely good question.
I agree. There's also so much unpredictability in the top 16. Yeah. I mean, you can expect some amount of like the partner or like in the Grixis decks, but there's always going to be some amount of surprises of some random deck that made top 16 that you didn't expect. Think like Teferi that we saw at Silicon Dynasty and Slicer, obviously. Nobody expected that, and so you shouldn't try to build towards a specific top 16 because you don't know what will show up.
Yeah. Very good answer. I like that answer a lot. We have some really good chat, some really good questions in the chat. Notably, hey Ben, how are you from Accepted?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm getting to hang out with some friends on stream, getting plenty of active chat. I ate a good dinner. I made some salmon. What more could you
Nice.
ask for?
Excellent. Excellent. I've tuned into a Ben cooking stream before. I think
Pretty
it's
lit.
safe to
They're pretty lit.
say that the
Yeah.
salmon was probably very good. Natural Crunch wants to know which of your Lamborghinis is your favorite.
Oh, it's so hard to choose between the
Yeah.
vast
Vast
array
stores
of
of Lamborghinis
It's
that you
like asking to choose a favorite child. I just
Oh
can't.
my goodness.
even more importantly, who's your favorite Spice Girl? Says the Venus Safe, which is a child that you do need to pick, unfortunately.
Oh no. I don't know the Spice Girls well enough. I'm gonna be very disappointed. Disappointing right here. I'm sorry, everyone.
Oh,
I'm a
unfortunate.
terrible
Oh.
I'm a terrible human being.
We have a lot of questions in the chat. One that is being pushed right now is, Ben, how do you think your Riz game helps you when you're attempting to take the table down to an easy W?
I do think that being at a table and being friendly and uh like actively giving people the good play it will make people listen to you more than anything else. Like I've said many times that don't listen to your opponents. They don't have your best interests at heart, except when someone else is trying to win. Sometimes they do have your best interests at heart, so maybe listen to me when I'm telling you what spell to counter, or I don't know, something like that.
I totally agree, but no one listens to me, man. So I need to work on that. I
We
need to
have
work on that.
we have in the chat Donna Gillis. When deciding to split the pot in the top four, did you consider the advantage that being first seat would give you, especially after partially attributing your win rate throughout the tournament to being first seat?
I do think that first seat really helped me throughout the entire day. And I did feel a little bit apprehensive. I'm like, am I just throwing away my advantage by asking for a split? The decision that ended up putting me over was the fact that the Rog to Dash player made top 4, because I've never played against that deck. I know how it works. I've seen it, but I haven't actually played against it, and I didn't want that kind of unknown factor in uh, a game with so much on the line. I was much happier taking a split and then playing for the glory instead of the money.
Excellent. Would you encourage people to add that to their kind of bag of tricks at tournaments? Like, do you think it's something people should consider in the future, going for the split?
I think that's a personal preference. It I mean, at the end of the day, it might depend on how you're doing financially, and maybe you should just take the split, get the money, get the whole trip paid for. Like that was definitely huge for me.
Emok in the chat says Scoot's is gonna sneeze here. No, that's not what he said, but that's not what they said. But they did say, I guess going back to Mnemonic Betrayal, do you think it's better tech for open metas, or would you still run it in your normal play group? They are still on the fence.
I I can't think of a single game that I've resolved that spell and not won. That's not the best argument, because you could say the same thing about like Emrakul. Hey, every time I cast Emrakul, I win, but that doesn't talk about how much you don't cast Emrakul.
Excuse me.
Okay. But that card is insane. I think if you just play it for a little bit, you'll see that it's just insanely powerful. Almost every time it wins on the spot, but there have been one or two times, like I remember a Paco game where I was constantly being attacked, and I knew I could win if I could just survive like 2 turns, and so I just played Mnemonic Betrayal and played a few dorks, and maybe a Remora from the graveyard, and was able to win that game as well. Like it's very hard to win a game or very easy to win a game once you have a Mnemonic Betrayal in the stack.
Donna Gillis, you are correct. I do officially have the cutest sneeze in cEDH. Thank you. Some other questions that we've gotten from the chat are, the goat wants to know what he told you before the last round.
I To be honest, there was so much going on that round. Or like before that round, especially with the anticipation of who was the last player. That whole between rounds is a bit of a blur. I'm sure if you told me I would remember, but I'm blanking a little bit.
It's okay. It wasn't important.
It was a while
That's
ago.
it was a while ago.
Yeah.
I'm looking for questions that are relevant here, and I'm just not.
Mm.
Hold on.
Man, just trying to drag your memory when you mentioned the Tevesh. Does that help any?
I think it was. I mean, I think he was basically encouraging me to go for the win. I mean, I am on the play, and I know how to play against that deck. It's yeah, you just counter the Tefesh. You stop their card draw. You counter the. I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, but there's always more to it.
Listen, you don't need to
It's a
call
very
it
fast deck.
Tevesh. Let's not hate on the Tevesh.
I
You know?
counter Tevesh every chance I
I
get.
counter
Oh my
Tefesh.
No,
goodness.
let that stuff
These
resolve.
monsters. It's Rakdos. What are you scared of?
Card draw. If they don't have card draw, they have nothing.
Yeah,
Ah,
losing
true.
the game. Here's a really good question in the chat. Actually, Ben, who's your favorite cEDH tournament organizer? And be careful when you answer this question.
I think Punt City and Silicon Dynasty were run way too well for me to say anything other than Eminence.
Wow, what a great answer! What a really good answer.
And I actually
Absolutely.
mean that. It's not just because I'm here, but
I appreciate it.
yeah.
We appreciate it certainly. And then Natural Crunch in the chat, a very good question. Why is Malcolm Tymna better than Rog Silas?
Ooh.
I think that's a tough question. Is it better? That's a question. I think nobody can. Nobody has a definitive answer.
This is not the approach I need from you. I need more aggression.
I do think that what I do have over Rog Tavesh by far
done.
is that whenever someone sees Rog Tavesh, they're like, we need to counter everything that they do. We're gonna blow up their rocks. We're gonna be super aggressive because otherwise they're gonna win. And Malcolm Tymna, I'm perfectly happy to sit by. I'm perfectly happy to take a slow game, and they're not going to be as aggressive towards me. So getting targeted less makes a huge difference, and that is why Malcolm Tymna is definitively better than Rog Silas.
Absolutely. Love the answer.
Undeniably.
That's a really good answer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like you can't ask for a better answer than that. MTG the Epic Storm calling it fake news though. What else do we have? We have another good question from DMOC. Is turn 1 Malcolm the same as turn 1 Rog?
First I want to just address the Epic Storm. I want you to. I don't want to ask you to ask questions that you don't want the answer to. If you can't take the answer, then don't ask the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay.
So back to your question, Rog versus Malcolm. They are very similar. Rog is a burst of mana that you can use on your turn 1 and 2 to using all the rituals that interact with having a creature so that you can go for a win very early. Malcolm, while it does make a treasure, it in a way makes actually a mana that you can tap every turn, because making a treasure allows you to use all of your mana every turn, but still have the mana up to leave up interaction for everyone else. So even though it's making a treasure which is one-time use, in a way, if you squint, it it really makes a mana that you can use every turn, to some extent.
MTG the Epic Store is saying, I've been very respectful. This is toxic 100 card player energy. Damien MTG wants to know if you're the best Emergence Zone player, and I think we can just answer that. Adam? Oh, yeah. I actually do have to do that as part of my job. I do have to make Poppy Phobia a moderator. And by that, I mean slash...
Give him a sword.
I'm out. Poppy Phobia 300. Okay, perfect.
Ooh. Ouch.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I fired off the chat. Okay, good. The chat likes it. All right, good. No, I'm not gonna do it to Uh, I have. I don't think we have any more questions for you, Ben, except one. Uh, this one really important question, honestly. And
Do tell.
Ben, what's the sexiest soup?
Sexiest soup?
Yeah,
I got an answer for you.
I appreciate it.
And the answer is French onion soup.
Mm,
It's French, it's onion, it's cheese. What more could you want from a soup? It's
nothing else.
I'm
Absolutely not.
I am French, and that's how why I know how good a good French onion soup is.
All right, I guess I thought I only had one more question for you, but Natural Crunch actually asked a good one at the buzzer, and then is upset that I did not ask. At what point do you believe a deck that's considered fringe becomes legitimate? I remember seeing many talk about Glinthorn Malcolm being the best way to play, but you've shown that being an actual Chad is another factor.
I That's a really tough question. I do think I have thought this for a long time, and uh, no one wants to believe me. But I think that Esper Malcolm is the best Malcolm deck. You lose the one card win con. Yes, it hurts, but having good card advantage and good colors is just worth more than all of that. And I know that people won't believe me when I say it, but it's true. And that's
I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
But to
unfortunately,
answer
like
that,
for now,
yeah.
Ben, you are him, so they kind of do have to listen.
Haha.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly. I even beat a Malcolm deck in the top four, so
That
there we
is
go.
true.
point
It
to the
Uh,
was.
point to the scoreboard.
but to answer when a deck becomes legitimate, I think, yeah, I mean, you can look at top 16 performances, but sometimes the format can move a little bit faster than that. So you can track your win rate, play against good players playing the decks you would expect at at a tournament. See if you can get a good win rate against them.
Yeah.
Testing.
We've been
Yeah.
trying to end the show for the last like 5 minutes, but instead we keep getting very good questions. Another one from Dire Swat. With Goda winning Mox Masters, is that a deck you are now worried about?
I feel fine about that matchup. I think that I already wanted to put in maybe one more piece of removal,
Yeah.
and that works against that. So like I'll probably find a spot for Deadly Relic and just call it a day. I don't think you can tech any too much against any one
Yeah.
deck.
Yeah.
Uh
You are notably on the
but
Blue Blast
yeah.
now, so
I am on the Blue Blast, and it was reason. I mean, I have to do more testing. It seemed good. I think I do expect more red as we go forward, just with Darkside and Breach. So we'll see where that ends up.
yeah. Now the Dockside is safe for another year. I think we're gonna see more red going forward. Ben,
Dockside
thanks.
would always be safe.
Yeah, Dockside is. I don't think Dockside's ever gonna die, but that is a topic for a different stream.
Mhm.
Ben, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Eminence TV Live. And chat, thank you so much for being so very lively and driving the show. It is super appreciated. Ashani, thank you for being the best co-host that a man could ask for. Ben, if people want to find you on the internet or harass you or cyberstalk you, where can they do that?
You can find me in various discords, Benzie Loeb. You can also find me on Twitter at Benzie Loeb, and I'll type in chat for you as well. Um, that's where you can find me. But I also want to say thank you so much for having me on. It's been amazing, and I'm super happy to be here.
Our pleasure, my friend. Always wonderful getting a chance to talk with you, and really, really good getting to interview you and talk about your deck a little. With that, all of us here at Eminence TV, Eminence TV, I wish you all a beautiful week. I hope you have a great night, and see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye.
Right.
Bye.